Imagine finding a man in an Irish river. No identification. No name. Nobody waiting nearby. Nobody coming forward to say they knew him. But then investigators looked at his clothes, and suddenly the mystery became much stranger. Because this man was wearing 3 pairs of trousers, one over another, 2 pairs of socks, several layers across his upper body, and inside his boots was paper carrying 2 words that investigators would remember for decades. Reality, April 99. Then they searched his belongings. A Claddagh ring, rosary beads, holy water, religious medals, a watch, keys, and a strange horseshoe-shaped item carrying the name MacGinty. It was as if this man had arrived in the River Lee carrying pieces of an entire life. Everything except the one thing investigators needed: his name. And more than 25 years later, Ireland still does not know who he was. The mystery begins on the 23rd of July, 1999. Near Inchgudgeon, Carrigrolney, outside Cork City, a passerby noticed something in the River Lee. Human remains were in the water. Emergency services were called. The man was recovered. But almost immediately, investigators faced a problem. There was nothing on him that simply answered the obvious question: who is this? No personal identification. No document with a name. No obvious piece of information that could connect him to a home or a family. The condition of the remains also made identification difficult. Investigators believe the man was somewhere between 40 and 60 years old. He was around 5'10", strongly built. He had a short neck, dark hair, and short gray facial hair. The post-mortem examination concluded that he had drowned. There was no evidence that somebody had killed him. That matters. This is not the murder mystery. The mystery is the man himself. Who was he? How did he arrive there? And why, despite everything found with him, could nobody put a name to him? Then there were the clothes. This is where the case becomes difficult to forget. The man had not entered the river wearing an ordinary outfit. He was wearing layers. A lot of them. There were navy trousers. Under those were green striped trousers. And another layer consisted of blue jeans. 3 pairs of trousers on one man. He was also wearing 2 pairs of socks. On his upper body was a red and white striped shirt. Over that was a green short-sleeved jumper. Then another beige jumper with the sleeves cut off. That alone raised questions. Was he trying to stay warm? Was he carrying everything he owned by wearing it? Was this simply how he normally dressed? Gardaí later said they believed he may have lived a transient lifestyle. But that remained a belief, not a confirmed identity. Then investigators examined his brown boots. Inside them was paper. And printed on that paper were the words, Reality, April 99. A tiny clue. A date only a few months before his death. Something that had apparently been used to line his boots. But it did not give investigators his name. Then came the personal belongings. And there were enough of them that this man should have been recognizable to somebody. He carried wooden rosary beads. He had holy water. There was a keyring with 3 religious medals. He wore a silver Philip Mercier watch with a gold face. He had a Claddagh ring. And then there was the horseshoe. A distinctive horseshoe-shaped object associated with the words, Good Luck MacGinty. Gardaí would later specifically ask the public about it. Did somebody recognize it? Had they seen somebody carrying one like it? Did the name MacGinty mean something? Was it connected to a place, a business, a person, an old gift? Nobody produced the answer investigators needed. That is what makes this mystery so unusual. Normally, an unidentified person gives investigators almost nothing. Here, this man left behind a collection of objects: clothing, jewelry, religious items, keys, a watch, a distinctive horseshoe, paper inside his boots. Every object looked like another chance to identify him, and yet every trail ended in the same place. No name. Claddagh took a genetic sample. They checked his description against missing person records. Still nothing. No confirmed match. Think about how strange that is. Somewhere, this man had lived a life. He had acquired those clothes. Somebody had made or sold that Claddagh ring. He had obtained that watch. He carried religious items that clearly meant enough for him to keep. He had keys. Keys normally open something. A door. A box. A lock. Somewhere those keys may once have belonged to something. But whatever they opened did not lead investigators back to the man. And then there is another question. Who was looking for him? Because when somebody disappears, there is usually another side to the story. A person who expected them home. A relative who had not heard from them. A neighbor who noticed they stopped appearing. A friend who wondered why they vanished. An employer. A landlord. Someone. But investigators could not connect this unidentified man to a missing person case. Years passed. The man was eventually buried at St. Patrick's Cemetery in Bandon, but his identity remained unknown. Then technology changed. The case did not. And more than 25 years after he was recovered from the River Lee, investigators decided to return to him. In November of 2024, his grave was opened. His remains were exhumed. The purpose was not to investigate a murder. It was to finally answer the question that had survived since 1999. Who was he? A forensic anthropologist examined the remains. New genetic samples were taken. Investigators hoped advances in forensic science could do what the original investigation could not. The new genetic information could be compared with Irish records. It could also be checked internationally against databases designed to help identify missing people and unidentified remains through family connections. For the first time in years, there was another real possibility that somebody somewhere could finally be connected to the man in Cork. A distant relative. A missing brother. An uncle. A father. Someone whose genetic information could finally bridge the gap between an unknown grave in Ireland and a family somewhere else. But the mystery survived. And in February of 2026, Claddagh again appealed publicly for help identifying him. More than a quarter of a century after his death. They showed the objects associated with him. They described his clothes. They highlighted the unusual horseshoe. And once again, they asked the public to look closely, because somebody may have seen these things before. The clothing is particularly important. 3 pairs of trousers is not an ordinary detail. Neither is wearing several layers during July. It could support the Garda belief that he lived a transient lifestyle and carried much of what he owned with him. But nobody has publicly established exactly why he dressed that way. And the paper inside the boots creates another strange image. Reality? April 99. Those words were physically there with him. They survived long enough to become part of a police appeal decades later. But what did they mean to him? Possibly nothing. Perhaps it was simply convenient material used to make damaged boots more comfortable. But even the smallest ordinary object becomes important when the person carrying it has no name. The religious items raise similar questions. Rosary beads, holy water, several medals, a Claddagh ring. Were they gifts? Were they connected to his family? Was religion important to him? Was the Claddagh ring something he had owned for years? Nobody can answer that without first answering who he was. And then there is the MacGinty horseshoe. Claddagh called it distinctive. It matters because distinctive objects can sometimes reconnect unidentified people with their past. Someone may remember seeing it hanging from a set of keys. Someone may remember giving it away. Someone may recognize exactly where it came from. After all these years, that tiny object could still matter. The strange thing about this case is that it contains almost no conventional crime mystery. There is no known killer to identify, no known attack to reconstruct, no confirmed conspiracy. The post-mortem examination concluded that the man drowned. The mystery is more basic than that. A human being died in Ireland. Investigators recovered him. They examined him. They documented what he carried. They compared records. They collected genetic material. They buried him. They exhumed him decades later. They sent information through international identification systems. And still, they could not say his name. That should be almost impossible in the modern world. But it happened. And that is what makes the River Lee man so haunting. His possessions survived. His clothes survived. Descriptions survived. The police files survived. Even the paper inside his boots survived long enough to become evidence. But his identity disappeared. Somebody knew this man before July of 1999. Somebody had heard his voice. Somebody had seen his face. Somebody had watched him walk into a room. Maybe somebody knew him only briefly. Maybe somewhere outside Ireland the family believed he had simply moved away. Maybe somebody searched for him under circumstances that were never connected to the man found in Cork. We do not know. And that is the point where the evidence ends. But the question remains. Who was the man wearing 3 pairs of trousers beside the River Lee? Why was he carrying those religious objects? Where did he get the MacGinty horseshoe? What did his keys once open? Where had he been living before he entered the river? And how could someone carrying so many pieces of his life leave behind absolutely nothing that revealed his name? More than 25 years later, Claddagh are still asking. Somewhere, there may still be a photograph of this man. Somewhere, his name may still exist in an old document. Somewhere, there may be someone who remembers the watch, the Claddagh ring, the horseshoe, or the unusual way he dressed. Because this man was not always an unidentified body in a police file. Before the River Lee, he was somebody. The only mystery is who.